This year in AP Government, we're going to ask that you try to use a note-taking method that's known as the Cornell note-taking style. And in this style, it's a little bit different than what you've done traditionally. Traditionally, you used to record your important terms in order, you would highlight them or star them, but you wouldn't have any way to recall that information. Nothing that set a cue or a place marker for later when you went back to study for the test. You would have to pore over your pages of notes in an effort to re-understand or relearn the material. Cornell note-taking style is a little bit different in that you actively engage your mind in leaving cues or little questions or diagrams or prompts or pictures that will lead your brain into remembering the important things that you wrote down. All right, so for example, I've done one little half page of notes here on your first reading assignment for the year, and it deals with roots of American government. You can find it on page 5 of your textbook, okay, and it's section 1.1. Now, I've actually taken notes just as I would have in the past, all right? People had occupied North America. They've been here for 30,000 years. It's estimated 100 million people lived here. I've got all the highlights in my notes. But what I want to do in the Cornell note-taking style is leave myself a clue that I can quickly page through when studying, and it will help me remember what I wrote. So for instance, the people had occupied North America for over 30,000 years. I may leave myself a question, okay? And I'll write that question along the side right in here, okay? Were Euros, or Europeans, the first people in North America? Okay, that's a great question. When I'm studying for the test, I see that and I say, no, they weren't. Okay, I knew that people had been here for over 30,000 years. Okay, I can simply figure that out by just covering it up and asking myself that question that I left as a cue. If I can't answer that question, it's as simple as opening up the page, getting the answer for it. Okay, we could do the same thing down here for the estimated 100 million people occupied before Europeans, and then what caused their numbers to decrease. Okay, so we could do how did Euro contact decrease native population? So leave myself another question as a cue or a question as a clue. That way when I'm studying, I don't have to reread paragraphs of information. I simply have to cover up the information, look at the question that I had as a reminder, and see if I can answer it. If I can answer it, great. I move on to the next question. If I can't, I simply flip it open, and I have my information right there. All right? So that's what we do when we're actively taking notes in the Cornell method. Now, one of the most important parts of this note sheet is found on the bottom. On the bottom of the page, there's a block for summary. This is one of the toughest parts of the note-taking style because it forces you to think about what you read and then condense it down and combine it into just a sentence or two that explains what did you just read about. So in here, I have just read about the first people prior to North European contact. So I've read about all those people. So I want to record what I read about in a brief summary. And this may be that North America was populated by hundreds of millions of natives prior to contact with Europeans. All right? The summary is one of the most important parts of the Cornell note-taking method. We'll continue on with this and other mini lessons later.